Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you to the DuPage County Public Works Committee regular meeting of Tuesday, June 18th, 2024. The time is now 9 a.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chair Garcia.
Here.
Vice Chair Ozog.
Here.
Member Cahill.
Here.
Member Desart.
Here.
Member Galassi. Member Zay.
Here. Is Member Galassi online? I know
Member
she's
Galassi was online over there.
sick, so she might not be coming here yet. Okay. If she comes on, would you please let me know?
Yeah, there she is.
She is, okay. All right,
So you have to
yeah,
read the.
okay.
Unlike me 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't let me out.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just joking.
Okay, a quorum of the members is physically present. I will entertain a motion to permit those members not
So
physically
moved.
present due to personal illness or disability, employment purposes, or the business of the board, family or other emergency
Second.
or unexpected childcare obligations to participate by video or teleconference. I have a motion in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome, Member Galassi.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the chairwoman's remarks. I do want to say that going on to public comment, do we have any public comment here with us today? Okay. So in accordance with the recently amended county board rules, electronically received public comments have been sent to members of the Public Works Committee prior to today's meeting and will be made part of the record of the meeting by inclusion in this minutes. Nick, you want to explain a little bit about this? public
Yeah,
comment?
so we received a public comment from a gentleman regarding high weeds at the corner of, let's see, Oak Brook, kind of Route 83. It is an IDOT corner, IDOT jurisdiction. We worked with DuDOT and they have forwarded this on to IDOT. So we have forwarded it on, but it is their jurisdiction.
All right.
Question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I think, I was gonna talk to Member Tornatori about this. I'm getting complaints from neighbors that neighbors don't cut their grass. We don't have an ordinance for high grass, and I think it's something we really need to look at. I mean, because municipalities have it, something over 8 inches or whatever. I mean, it's something that we really need to look at because it's not fair for.
Municipalities have it,
Yeah,
I know that.
Municipalities have it, but we don't, and I think it kind of
Maybe our
irritates
department, or would that
our
be
neighbors. If
more-
you take care of your lawn and the neighbor next to you doesn't, I mean, and we're helpless to do anything about it.
Yeah, that would be definitely.
Development.
There has been discussions on that. And it's something that development, absolutely. I mean, if the board wants an ordinance on that, it would go through development, through the building and zoning code. And then the question becomes, obviously enforcement. We've got to make sure, but there is definitely a need out there. We do get a lot of complaints on that. I know some of the townships have it, some of them don't have it. So that's something we could definitely explore.
Madam Chair, I agree. I think we should look into it and, look at fees.
It's not public works, it's development.
Oh,
So it would go
gotcha.
through building and zoning. So that's the committee we want to take that to, but it's definitely a good idea. Vice Chair Ozog.
I want to express though that as time is going on, a lot more people are doing what you might want to call natural landscaping. And it's going to become an issue. I noticed in Glen Ellen, a brand new house was just, it's kind of up on a hill and the entire front of it is natural. It's grasses that are planted.
Like a prairie.
But it's prairie planting. You see it in the city of Chicago along the lakefront. So I'm not sure if that's a direction that we really want to head into, but we can talk about it in development because I think it's coming more and more where yes, it's more manicured or what have, or thoughtful or intentional, but it's really a trend. I think it's going to stay.
Yeah, and I understand where Member Zay is coming from, because I know sometimes like they say rodents and stuff can live in there and then it can live in your yard. But I know in development, we talked about this with the trees. The tree ordinance, we don't have one. And sometimes trees are falling in other people's yards, and we had a scenario in our district.
We did, yeah.
And
Not much.
I know that, right, it was, the monitoring of that and the, whatever you call it, the policing of it
The
is
enforcement.
very, enforcement's very
difficult.
hard. So, but it's something that we should definitely talk about, but I know we had the discussion with the trees too, so, but I get it, because I know like ordinance and stuff.
So bring it up in development. All right, moving on. I make a motion to approve the minutes 24-1741 Public Works Committee meetings of Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. We're gonna motion a second. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I make a motion to approve, the budget transfer 24-1742. This is for the transfer of funds from account to other government services to employer share IMRF, employer share IMF, and SBITA interest and subscription asset in the amount of $590,000 for net pension obligation adjustments for the fiscal year 23 audit and for GASB 96 implementation per the fiscal year 23 audit. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I make a motion to approve the claims report of 24-1743, payment of claims, public works and facilities management. Motion, and we get a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, I make a motion to approve the joint purchasing agreement of 24-1744, recommendation for the approval of a contract to F.H. Pashkin and S.N. Nielsen and Associates LLC to provide construction services to reconfigure the existing
Second.
county board room offices to conference space for facilities management for the period of June 19, 2024 through November 30th, 2024, for the total contract amount not to exceed $19,635. And a motion and a second. The work on this, I believe, is supposed to start after the July county board meeting. Is that correct, Tim? Yes, okay. So I would assume that if anybody has anything in their offices they want to get it out before then, correct?
Yeah, the
Okay.
beginning of the care sale, they're selling the fall. I'm just kidding.
Okay. Are we gonna send an email out to remind
Absolutely,
people?
at least two of them, right?
If there's anything left in there, we'll box it up. We'll put it in vendors boxes for the members.
Okay,
That was my question too. Are we gonna is this going to county board so all the board members know, or just our little group here?
It's just our little group.
Yeah, we'll make sure everybody's
We'll
notified.
pick through everybody's stuff first.
Yes,
and
that's
then
right.
whatever.
okay, we got a motion, we got a second on it, I believe. Is there any other discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yay.
Yay. Thank you, Vice Chair, for bringing it up years ago.
And member running, former member running.
Member
For the
running,
idea
yes.
initially, so.
Okay, I make a
Thank you,
motion
Mr.
to
Zay, for
approve.
Bringing this up as well.
Yes. Make a motion to approve bid award of PWP 001324. Recommendation for the approval of contract to Mid-American Water to furnish and deliver waterers pacer hydrants as on an as-needed basis for the DuPage County Public Works Underground Maintenance Department for the period of June 26, 2024 to June 25th, 2025, for a total contract amount not to exceed $62,500. Motion is second. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I make a motion to approve the bid renewal of FMP 002924, recommendation to award a contract to Enterprise Global Technologies LLC for participation in the demand response program contract for called emergency events for approximately $31,773 for the period of June 1st, 2024 through May 31st, 2025 per renewal option. This is the first option to renew. A motion?
Second.
Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. I motion to approve 24-1745, recommendation for the approval of contract to the standard companies to furnish and deliver plastic, trash, and recycling can liners as needed for county facilities for facilities management for the period of July 14, 2024 through July 13, 2025.
Second.
Per contract total not to exceed $25,000. The motion is second. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Any opposed? No. Okay, great. Got a motion to approve, I motion to approve PWP 001424, recommendation for the approval of contract to Stewart Spreading for the daily removal and land application of biosolids from both the Woodridge Green Valley wastewater treatment plant and the Knollwater wastewater treatment plant for the period of October 1st, 2024 to September 30th, 2028. For a total contract not to exceed $2,095,000 per most qualified
Second.
offer. Got a motion and a second, and I think there's only one of two companies in this area that do this, correct?
There's not many of them,
Right.
and the one we have is by far the largest in the industry out there. Every wastewater agency has a contract like this.
Right. So, okay, got a motion second. Any other discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement of PWR 000424. This is an intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage, Illinois, and the Itasca Park District granting a permanent non-exclusive easement for the Rollwig Road multi-use path project. And a motion and a second. This is for the Nordic treatment plant paths easements. They're gonna build around the Nordic treatment plant. For anybody who didn't understand. So, got any other questions on this? Anyone? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. I make a motion to approve the action item 24-1746, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Allied Valve Inc. to provide testing, repair, and recertification of a safety review
Second.
relief valves for boilers of the power plant for facilities management the period of March 11th, 2024 through March 10th, 2025 for a total contract amount not to exceed $27,256. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I make a motion to approve PWR 00524, resolution approving a consulting and cured in place pipe credit agreement with Institute Form Technologies USA LLC in connection with the county's Omnia contracts for trenchless rehabilitation and maintenance of pipeline infrastructure. Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving into our presentations, we've got the 2023 audit presentation. We're going to hand this over to you, Finance.
Yes.
Okay.
So all the members received an email from me, I think, middle of last week regarding the FY 2023 audit for Public Works. We are required by statute to do a separate Public Works, and then it gets rolled into the overall county. We have Joe Lightcap from Baker Tilly and Asan Spira, who is our internal financial manager. I'm happy to say, as you saw in the email, great performance in 2023, very solid. I'm going to turn over to the experts, kind of go through it, but a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. One, our financial position is probably one of our strongest we've had, and that's with an aggressive capital program. So what we planned on 8 years ago is kind of coming to fruition now, which is great. And more importantly, if you dive into the audits that I attached, our debt service coverage ratios, we exceeded all of our requirements, which is kind of our health barometer that we have for the department. It helps us identify trends, but we're, like I said, very strong, and I'm very comfortable with our performance. But I'll turn over to Stan first, if we could.
Okay. Before I turn it over to Joe, I just want to acknowledge the role the board, this committee, operations, Nick and Sean play. To have good quality of earnings, accurate financial reports, it's down to really the tone at the top, and it cascades down from there that we follow policies. And then Joe could get into the metrics, and so I'll turn it over to Joe.
Thanks, Dan. Morning, everybody. First off, I do want to thank Dan and the team for all their help during the audit. They're extremely prepared for us coming in, extremely responsive. And it's just, it makes it for a great experience. There's a lot of work involved, a lot of questions, a lot of supporting documentation that we need. Stan and team are just always one of the best, most well prepared, best, easiest to work with that we come across. So just, thank you, Stan, and to your team. For the fiscal year 23 financial statements, we once again issued a clean or unmodified opinion on the system's financial statements. The highest level of assurance you can receive from your outside auditors states that the information within is reasonable in all material respects and can be reasonably relied upon by an outside user of the financial statements. For the fiscal year 23 audit, I think as you saw a little bit in the budget transfer, the system implemented GASB 96, which was the implementation of recording an asset and an offsetting liability for subscription-based IT arrangements. This was implemented countywide due to it being material in one of the departments. It wasn't material to Public Works, but it did record a $650,000 asset and offsetting liability this year. No real change to the income statement for this or ending net position, but it does show a little bit more about the assets and liabilities of the system. I won't get into really any of the details of the financial condition, as Nick mentioned there. Strong as usual. I do always point out to the management's discussion and analysis at the beginning of the financial statements written by management, and does a really good job of explaining the financial results of the system with a comparison to prior year. So you can really see from management's perspective how everything went. I do, and then with the other report that we prepare, the reporting and insights from the 2023 audit. This is a separate report from us that satisfies a few different auditing standards. It's very much a boilerplate letter due to there being nothing of concern to report from our audit. But the letter does provide you a lot of good information. It addresses our responsibilities as your auditors, what management's responsibilities are with the audit. It discusses that there were no significant changes to the audit plan. It tells you a little bit about our audit areas of focus, our thoughts on significant risks of material misstatement, which for the system really is, there's two standard audit areas that we're required to look at that are significant risks of material misstatements in every audit. So those are presented there, but nothing really specific to the system. Our key areas of emphasis, and as I mentioned, the letter is very much boilerplate. On page 2, this report does include my contact information, including my email and my phone number. Should you have any questions after the meeting or in prep for the next year's audit, then please do not hesitate to contact us. Also, page 24, which is the last couple of pages of the report, has a couple of kind of bullet points and comments and things to kind of help spur discussion if needed. Page 5 of this report discusses significant risks. These are just standard risks inherent in any audit, as I mentioned, but nothing specific to what we've seen with the system. Page 6 is our report on internal controls. We look at internal controls with the system to help plan the nature, timing, and extent of our audit procedures. We don't provide an opinion on internal controls, but if we see anything that we think could potentially result in allowing for a material misstatement of the financial statements to occur, we would report that in this letter. Or if we just saw anything that we felt that the committee should be aware of, we would also include that in this letter. As we've had for a few years now, there are no internal control related comments to report. The system does a very good job of having checks and balances in place and reviews in place to make sure that the information that they're presenting to the committee is reasonable and fairly stated. Really, kind of all I had as my prepared remarks. Open it up to any questions that the committee might have on our audit process or anything related to that, to the financial statements.
Okay, Member Cahill?
Yes, thank you, Joe. That was terrific. It sounds like everything is really great. One question, did you have any management letter comments or any areas of recommendation for improvement?
No, we did not have anything included in our report.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Otherwise, I want to thank the staff for a great job.
Could I ask Joe a quick question?
Sure.
Joe, I know Baker Tilly, you guys audit a lot of other public works agencies countrywide. For the comparison's sake, financially, debt level, how do we compare to the other agencies that you guys do audit?
Yeah, I think you guys do a great job. I think you're there at the top. The thoughtfulness and the planning, right? You have a lot of regulations that you have to comply with, but also, future improvements and construction to the system, and just looking that forward-looking viewpoint that you have, determining, make sure that your rates are going to be at a reasonable level, and then you're also looking for low-cost borrowing from the state or the federal government. I think you do that as well as anyone that we've seen.
Good news. Thank you so much to the staff. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for your report today, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. Have a good rest of your day.
Receive and place on file, and then we'll incorporate it into Jeff's overall county.
And thank you, Stan.
Okay, so we're gonna
Yeah,
receive
thank
and
you,
place on
Stan.
file the 2023 audit presentation.
Second?
Do we need to vote on that?
No.
Okay, so it is now on file.
Can I take back my second? You retract.
Okay, we're gonna move on to 13B, which is a stormwater PowerPoint presentation. Yes, I know Public Works, but we also deal with stormwater.
So we have this, I will kick it off and kick it to Tim real quick. So, not to steal his thunder too much. So we, obviously, stormwater is a big component of what we do here on campus. For those who've been here for a while, we've experienced some massive floods here on campus, affecting almost every building. So we take it very seriously. What Tim is gonna go through is the federal guidance for a 100-year event has changed considerably. And because of that, we've modeled our campus and obviously we're at risk a little bit with 100 years. So Tim, if you want to kind of dive into it.
Right. Yeah, I think Nick went through kind of this slide pretty much. What I want to go through is kind of how the 100-year rain event has changed, really when the buildings were designed and some potential solutions that we're looking for. So, I covered that. Go to the next slide. I'm going to spend a good amount of time on this slide for you. In 1961, what was determined was a 100-year rain event was 5.8 inches of rain. In 1989, they changed to 7.5 inches. And then again, in 2019, it changed from 8 to 8.6 inches of rain. So with the original design, 5.8 inches of rain, that was called TP40. The 421 building we're in now, Care Center, Power Plant, 140, Animal Services, Health Department, 501 Jail, both parking decks, and I believe 505 were all designed to be dry for a 5.8 inch rain event. Then in 1989, that rain event increased to 7.5 inches. We designed DuCom, 180, and 503 to annex to that rain event. Then in 2019, it increased again to 8.5 inches, 8.6 inches of rain. So you can see our buildings were designed for smaller rain events. As you have larger rain events fall, they're at risk. To put it in perspective, what is now what was a 100-year rain event in 1989 with bullet 70 is now a 50-year rain event, or has twice as likely to occur under bullet 75. So kind of I know you have a background in this very well too. So that's kind of the history of where we are. As we get more rain event, there are more areas in the campus that are at risk. So next slide. This is just the watershed boundaries. We have about 655 acres that feed through our campus. Really with this blue line significance is any raindrops that fall on that boundary, stay in that boundary and ultimately run across the campus to get to Winfield Creek. So that's kind of the size of the magnitude. And the other one I'm going to stress on it, as you can see, we are grossly built out. Almost everything that feeds us is developed in a lot of impervious surfaces, and it's an older development. So next slide. One of the things about DuPage County, it's very, very flat. What that means is it takes a while for rain to move across. If we had more topography, the water would carry out faster. This is the April of 2013 event. Nick was here for that. I will show you in a slide later. This is consistent with the modeling that we have. As some areas get wet, that's the parking lot. That's south of 421.
Yeah, that's a surface parking lot
yeah.
there, just for
Sounds
reference.
like you're blaming Nick for this event.
Oh, I'll tell you, I've been here at an event and
And service and drive
where it was actually, and I think Jim, you might have been here then, when it was actually flowing over County Farm Road.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does, depending on the rain event and how intense it is, this entire campus is underwater.
So everything was designed very, very well. It's just the rain events are getting bigger.
Right.
So, all right, next slide. From an overflow perspective, the majority of the water goes through three places. It either goes going on the slide from right to left. It'll go from the first pond into the second pond, which we affectionately call the waterfall pond. Then where that green dot is, it goes from a 24-inch culvert all the way directly into Winfield Creek. The other one is a pond just north of the Care Center. That has a lot of feeding, and then that has an overflow route to go into Winfield Creek. So that's kind of the majority of the other things that are on west of County Farm Road directly into Winfield Creek or through a pipe. They don't go through detention to get there. So that's kind of a summary of a macro level of how our water flows. So from there, next slide. Now this slide is very busy. If you don't mind, I have it on a board. So I want to kind of go through this with you a little bit, and hopefully I can get you through to how this flows. So again, as a reminder, these ponds were built to handle much less than what a 100-year rain event is now. This is by design. Whenever you build a pond, you always try and have an overflow for it. So in this pond, which is, here's the fairgrounds here, it'll overflow over the road. These two ponds are connected with an equalizer pipe, so that they, in theory, go pretty close together. When you get a lot of rain, this might be a little bit higher, and then it flows into this pond. As I stated earlier, then this pond goes from here, and it has a 24-inch pipe that goes all the way to Winfield Creek. But it was designed for smaller rain events. When we get larger rain events, as the photo shows, the water ponds in the parking lot south of 421. Then when it gets high enough, it will overflow over into here. It'll go between 421 here and the 479 parking deck. It'll go into this pond here. It will then go overflow. Honestly, some of the water has the ability to go down and go into the bottom of County Farm Road. And then from this pond, the water will flow into Winfield Creek. When this pond gets large enough, it will overflow and go into some of these areas down in here, which can include Ducon, OEM, the backup power facility. We have some solutions here that we can implement rather quickly that I'll go through in the next few slides. So kind of quickly here, and I'll leave this board up here to look at. This kind of shows how all the water flows and where it ponds and how it moves to get across the campus. So we identified 6 solutions that were explored by the engineer. And the bottom line, next slide, is 2 of them really made sense. That is improving overland flow and floodproofing. So for improving the overland flow, next slide, I want to focus on this area right here. If we were to build a flood berm that goes right in here and then improve this conveyance, we can keep the lion's share of this overflow from happening. So that's a solution that we have west of County Farm Road. And then that will alleviate a lot of the issues that we have over right here. So next slide. I had mentioned here, this is a little bit more detailed how we want to improve the conveyance. First of all, we got the water in here, and then we got to get more efficiently into Winfield Creek. If we do this construction next year, that I'll go through next year, this would be ultimately reviewed by stormwater. So stormwater will be reviewing the permit application as we go through that as well. So
Remember that when the budget comes next.
there you go. All right, next slide. So the other one I want to focus on a little bit is floodproofing. So floodproofing would be protecting doors, some of the things like that. If you look at the slide in the upper right corner, we do have flood doors. Those were installed between April of the 2013 event that you saw and my hiring on in October. We did just try those doors literally this Saturday at Nick's suggestion. That is on our annual review to make sure that they fit properly, building shift, rubber seals get degraded, et cetera, et cetera. So those still work well. Next slide. This is just some more examples of floodproofing doors, some flood activities that are done, various areas throughout the United States that will be explored as we continue to pursue floodproofing. So next slide. What I want to go through a little bit on this one is, in order to do the design on the overflow berm, that's roughly about $100,000. Construction would be about $400,000, and then it's about $300,000 to do the floodproofing on both the east and west campuses with rounding about $800,000. This would be budgeted in FY25. If the budget is approved, we are comfortable that we can get the design done and the floodproofing done on the west part of campus all by the end of 2025. From there, we will have a better analysis of what some of the floodproofing activities are required. We'll be bringing those to you as we go. And before I close, I want to thank Stormwater, in particular Jen Boyer, for all the work they've done on this. Jen's done 80% of this work. It's been great working with her. So I'm kind of taking her presentation, but I want to thank these guys and Sarah's team.
So before we get into it, I wanted to say, if you could go back to the last slide. What we're focusing on, as you know, we've built out the detention ponds. We have maximized what we have here on campus. We're completely in compliance. I mean, we have maximized what we're focusing on. Okay, let's convey it through our campus here safely. Let's protect the buildings. That's the most bang for the buck. And we know we're going to get something in excess of 100-year event. Let's protect our buildings as much as we can. The critical buildings, you see, we put the flood doors a while ago on 421. There may be more of that here on campus. Because, everything's fine until it's not fine. And so we're planning for that event, which will come as you always say in stormwater, it will come at some point.
Mhm.
I know I've been through probably half a dozen events where this campus has been flooded. It will happen again.
They're always on weekends.
Yeah.
Always.
Holidays and
Always.
weekends.
I don't know why.
Always there.
Yes.
So if we're moving everything over to Winfield Creek, is there a problem with that overflowing or going into the neighbors?
That would be
the
that's
residents?
part of the modeling that's done, and because it's more than a square mile, that's where stormwater is involved.
Okay,
And that's what stormwater does. No, it's against the law. You cannot push your problems downstream. DNR can't do that. The feds can and do, but the state and locals can't. So, and sorry, they do.
The nice thing is our detention here on campus, we
Right.
attenuate
Right.
so much of the flow. We have such a benefit for the watershed.
but aren't you saying that it goes over to the creek there?
It does, but what we're doing is we're just getting to the creek instead of having to go, it's still.
Instead of going through
there.
buildings,
It's just, we're shooting it here instead of
Okay.
having to go across because it ultimately would come out through here.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not
it's already
redirecting
going to the
anything.
creek,
okay.
so. Member Sark.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I understand this correctly on the very last page of your presentation. And thank you,
Sure.
Tim. So this floodproofing is for the 8.6
Correct.
event.
Yes.
Okay, good.
We were designed, a lot of it was designed for the 5.4, and then we got the larger rain events, and we've got to fix it because 100-year rain events are much more intense.
And from a flood proofing perspective, flood doors, if we do that, I mean, if we can design beyond a 100-year event, we do that. I mean, there's buildings that on the campus, if we have been able to do 200 or 500, we do that. It's just a matter of a cost benefit analysis. We'll go beyond a 100-year where we can.
I love that idea. Thank you so much, because for almost $1 million, I'm thinking with climate change and everything, this 8.6 is gonna go up.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna go up.
Well, you can see.
200 event a tsunami. We were watching a tsunami show on television.
Well,
No.
for those, I will tell you.
I didn't watch
that
it because
word.
we will not have that in DuPage.
We're not gonna have a
So, for
tsunami.
those that were around in 96, was that the 10,000-year event we had?
Yeah,
I-88 was underwater.
16.9 inches.
And
So was my house.
we were, I know here in the county, we were renting helicopters to do flood assessments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6.
Member Evans.
Not that I don't, trust the flood proofing, but are we looking at relocating IT, out of the basement? Any reason?
That was that was the main reason why we put the flood doors in there.
Right,
Or-
I know, but I'm just saying if they fail or something, are we looking at maybe in the future relocating?
What I would suggest is let's see what the floodproofing analysis comes back with this on, but I understand that can actually be presented to you as well. Sure.
The good concern.
Yeah.
Good concern. I'm saying.
Well, that was my same issue with not the best design with our IT in the basement. We have the flood proof. But obviously, we're building a lot on the campus. So I know we've maximized our ponds and all that. Have we also looked into the possibility of maximizing, we talked about bringing transportation over by the fairgrounds. Has this been put into this design or not? I hate to do it because I know where the proximity we're talking about is up in that corner up in there. I mean, are we looking at
Two
that?
fronts on that. The first would be, yes, assuming that they were to go, I got my variance here, over in here, they would be very well elevated because it's from scratch. They would go very, very high because that is critical infrastructure. The second one is.
I'm just saying, we're adding more, not per.
No, understood.
You know,
We
would have to put
created
some
the-
detention
when
for
we
that.
created this detention over right in here, and when we lowered this pipe both, we have surplus detention available.
Okay.
We've offered it to DOT. It is $196,000 an acre foot. If they can create it cheaper than them, they will, and we'll just keep our surplus for down the road. But when we built that detention, we were actually rushing for both animal services, DOT potentially before they slowed down, and then the health department. So we were scrambling to build extra detention to stay ahead of them, and then we have a bank, similar to the wetland banks that you guys have.
This is the first time in our history.
Stormwater in the basement, because then with Sarah's leadership, we would know that it would
Yeah, it'll
never
rain for
flood.
sure. So you're saying it's like stormwater issues are important, right?
They are very important, yes.
I always want to get down there.
Member Champlin.
Thank you. And just, Nick, I know you and I had talked, I think in 2013. And if a big enough rain comes, no matter what we do, how much protection we have, all of DuPage could be underwater.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
it's-
so it's great that we're doing this because it's very important, but,
it's all about, it's all
I
about
mean,
giving
that is-
yourself
That's right.
a level of protection.
That's
There
right.
is always a rain event that can exceed your level of
That's right,
protection.
that's right.
And so you just try
Do the
to,
best.
what
That's right,
can
do
you
your
do?
best, right? So
When
even
we're
if
done
we-
with the next analysis, what I want is, I want to know where the areas are at risk, and I want to know how much risk they are. I want to know that the front door here is 8 inches of rain, so we can get the sandbags going ahead of time. I want the risk analysis in the study that we have as we go ahead, so that we know where to hit. And it's theoretical, but it's pretty close.
And what about our parking garages? How are those?
And well, I can actually talk about that. I can tell you that whenever there's a big event, the first thing that happens is stormwater. Stormwater, Sarah communicates with everybody, so we know the potential and she keeps us in the loop. And then there's certain things that triggers. It might trigger the 421 flood doors that go in. It triggers security, moving all of our vehicles up a floor. So there's a lot of things that go in and all through the weekend. I mean, I know that Sarah keeps all of you in the loop, but even 4 times that, she's keeping us in the loop because we have considerations down at the plant. We have considerations with security. I mean, we will sandbag here as well. I mean, listen, we're very lucky that we've only had one building really get flooded, and that was when we built the annex. And there were the issues there, but we've managed to keep water out of almost all of our buildings, even with the high events. Now, we will give away the parking lots, the bottom level of the parking structure. I mean, even though you can come here on campus and see water throughout, that doesn't mean our buildings are flooded. And that's what we're trying to prevent.
Exactly, right. Right, good, great presentation.
Great
So
discussion
interesting,
and
thank you.
much needed, as we
Thanks.
know. Thank you
Yep.
so much.
You're out of time.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is you're gonna be putting,
This will be budgeted for next year.
Yes.
You'll see it at your next meeting where the $900,000. So, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a history and explanation on it.
we're gonna pull this one and we'll do it at next.
The ordinance one?
The ordinance, yeah.
Okay. Okay, item 14, we're gonna pull because we are officially out of time. So is there any old business anybody would like to discuss? New business? Okay, really quick, under old business, can I just for the next meeting, and I'll talk about this, the Heritage Gallery, where we're at, what's going on with that, so just get a little information on that. Okay, without objection, we are adjourned then.
Sure, do that.